the widow on the edge. The sun was just beginning to burn to the dusty horizon of Reedridge County, turning the desert into a sea of gold and bronze. In the tiny, broken-down cabin on the outskirts of the town, Anna Weaver shivered despite the morning warmth. Her hands were rough and raw from days of scrubbing, cooking, and trying to keep her little home from falling apart. She stared at the empty shelves, at the thin layer of dust covering the windowsill, and at the small, trembling figure of her son, Jonah, who clutched a worn teddy bear as if it were the only thing holding him to hope. Anna had been a widow for 6 months now. Her husband, a hard-working ranch hand, had been taken by the flu that swept to the county last winter. She had done everything she could to scrape by, but the debts kept piling. Rent, firewood, food. Every day was a battle against hunger and despair. Her thick brown hair, which had always been her pride, now fell in uneven strands around her shoulders, tangled from neglect and exhaustion. She had considered every option, every terrible, humiliating option. And then she had come to this idea, selling her hair. There was a barber in town rumored to pay good money for long, thick hair. Enough, maybe, to buy a week's worth of bread. She had waited in her mind for hours, her stomach twisting with shame. But the thought of Jonah go to bed hungry made her stomach twist even harder. Jonah's small voice broke through her thoughts. "Mama, we don't have breakfast." "I know, baby," Anna whispered, forcing a smile she didn't feel. I'll fix something." But she didn't. She couldn't. The pantry was bare except for a few dry beans. She couldn't make a meal out of nothing. Her hands clenched into fists. By mid-morning, Anna was walking down the dirt road toward the town, her worn shoes kicking up clouds of dust with every step. Her hair, once long and silky, had grown dull and tangled. She pulled it back into a messy braid to hide how much she had been worrying over the last months. Her plan weighed heavily on her mind. When she reached a small barber shop near the town square, she hesitated at the door. Inside, the smell of talcum powder and shaving cream lingered. A bell rang softly as she entered. The barber, a burly man with a graying beard, looked up from sharpening his scissors. "Afternoon, ma'am," he said gruffly. Anna swallowed hard. I like to sell my hair," she said, barely above a whisper. The barber raised an eyebrow. "Your hair, huh? How long is it?" "Down past my waist," Anna murmured, tucking a strand behind her ear. He leaned back in his chair, scrutinizing her. "You know the price. I can't pay more than $50. "That's it." Anna's stomach dropped. $50 might cover bread for a week, maybe, but it wouldn't be enough to keep the firewood coming or pay the rent. She bit her lip. She had no other options. I'll take it," she said finally, her voice trembling. The barber nodded. "Sit down." Anna lowered herself into the chair. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes, trying to prepare herself for the shame. The scissors glinted in the sunlight, sharp and final. She imagined the money in her pocket, the warm bread, the smile on Jonah's face. And then, in a sudden surge of courage, she asked a question that had haunted her all morning. "Do you think it's worth it?" The barber shrugged. "Money's money, lady. You'll eat tonight or you won't. Doesn't matter to me." The word stung more than the scissors as he cut. One snip, another, and Anna's long braid fell to the floor like a fallen banner of defeat. She stared at it for a long moment, tears blurring her vision. The barber counted out the bills and tossed them on the counter. "That's it," he said. "Don't ask for more." Anna cradled the money in her hand, like it was both a blessing and a curse. She turned to leave, but just as she opened the door, a shadow fell across the threshold. A man on horseback had appeared outside, leaning slightly forward as his horse shifted impatiently. He wore a worn leather hat pulled low over his eyes, a faded duster coat streaked with dust, and a calmness that demanded attention. His presence was commanding but not threatening, like a storm just waiting to sweep through. The man dismounted with ease, his boots kicking up clouds of dust. He studied Anna carefully, as if he could see every fear and worry carved into her face. "You look like you've had a rough morning," he said, his voice deep, calm, yet unexpectedly kind. Anna's instinct was to shrink away. I sold my hair," she admitted, ashamed. The man frowned, tilting his head slightly. "Sold it For bread. For my son. That's all I could think to do, she said quickly, her voice cracking. He studied her again, eyes scanning the threadbare clothes, the trembling hands, the small, scared boy clinging to a toy in the window of the shop behind her. That braid, he said slowly. It's beautiful. And you shouldn't have to give it up for bread. Anna blinked. I don't understand. I said you shouldn't, he repeated, softer this time. Come with me. I'll make sure you and your boy don't go hungry. Her stomach dropped. Who was this man? A stranger? A fool? But something in his voice, steady and unwavering, made her heart catch. She hesitated. I can't just... I insist, he said firmly. You keep your hair. I'll feed you both. But you have to trust me. Anna's mind raced. Could she trust a stranger? And yet, the desperation, the hunger, the ache in her heart for Jonah made her nod slowly. All right, she whispered. The man's eyes softened, and he tipped his hat. Good. We leave now. As they mounted their horses, Anna looked down at the town, at the dusty road, at the shop that had taken her pride in exchange for pennies. Her heart was heavy with shame, but also strangely light. She couldn't explain why, but something about this man made her feel as if maybe, just maybe, there was hope yet. And then, as the two of them rode out toward the horizon, a shadow appeared at the edge of the town. Someone, or something, was watching. Someone who didn't like strangers interfering. Anna shivered, clutching Jonah close. The man glanced back at her, eyes narrowing. Stay close, he said. This might get dangerous. And in that moment, Anna realized that the road ahead, though promising bread, warmth, and safety, might also lead them straight into danger. Someone was coming, and they weren't coming with kindness in their hearts. The cowboy's promise. The wind whipped through the open plains as Anna clutched Jonah tightly to her chest. The sun had climbed higher, burning the dust into their eyes, but she barely noticed. All she could feel was a strange mixture of fear and relief that coiled in her chest like a living thing. The man, this cowboy, rode silently beside her, his horse's hooves striking the ground with steady, hypnotic rhythm. You're not going to rob us? Anna asked, her voice trembling. He glanced at her, and for the first time she saw a faint smile tug at the corner of his mouth. If I wanted your money, lady, I'd have taken it from the shop. You'd have never seen me coming. Anna's grip on Jonah loosened slightly, but her heart still raced. Then why help us? He didn't answer right away. His eyes scanned the horizon, sharp as a hawk. Because not everyone deserves to suffer for the mistakes of fate, he said finally. And I don't like seeing kids go hungry. Jonah peeked over Anna's shoulder, eyes wide. Are you a cowboy? The man chuckled softly. That depends on who you ask. Some call me a drifter. Some call me a troublemaker. But yeah, you could say I'm a cowboy. Anna swallowed. A cowboy? The word sounded almost like a storybook, something out of the tales her mother used to read to her. Yet here he was, a living, breathing man offering them a lifeline. They rode in silence for several miles, the small town shrinking behind them. Dust swirled around their horses, and the air smelled faintly of sagebrush and sun-baked earth. The only sounds were the rhythmic thud of hooves and the occasional startled cry of a hawk circling overhead. Finally, the cowboy slowed his horse and turned to Anna. We're almost there, he said. Where is there? Anna asked, anxiety prickling her skin. Somewhere safe. Somewhere no one can reach you easily. You and your boy will have food, a roof, and a little peace. Anna wanted to ask more, to question the logic of trusting a stranger, but the worry for Jonah's safety overpowered every shred of caution. He was pale and tired, his small hands clutching the fabric of her dress, as if holding on would keep the world from breaking apart. After another hour, they came to a secluded canyon, tucked behind a ridge of jagged rocks. Nestled within the shadow of the cliffs was a small wooden cabin, simple but sturdy, with smoke curling from a chimney. A garden had been partially tilled, and a few chickens wandered near a rickety fence. Anna's breath caught. You live here? The cowboy nodded. It's not much, but it's enough. Jonah's eyes lit up. We can stay? Of course, the cowboy said, as long as you follow the rules. Anna dismounted, her legs shaky. She looked at the cabin, at the small garden, and at the dust that clung to their clothes. For the first time in months, a spark of hope flickered in her chest. That night, the cowboy, whose name she still didn't know, taught them how to cook a simple stew over the fire, using vegetables in the garden and a few cans he kept stored away. Jonah's laughter, soft and hesitant at first, grew louder with every bite. Anna tried to smile, but it felt strange to allow herself happiness. It had been so long since she had felt safe, since she had felt the luxury of hope without the sting of shame. "Why are you helping us?" she asked again. As they sat by the fire, Jonah's small frame curled against her. The cowboy stared into the flames, his face half hidden by the brim of his hat. "Because someone had to. You've been dealt a bad hand, Anna. But that doesn't mean life has to end here. You have a choice to keep going or to give up." Anna swallowed, emotion choking her throat. I almost gave up. You almost sold your hair for bread," he finished for her. "I saw it, and I knew that if I didn't do something, you would lose more than hair. You'd lose hope." Anna's hands trembled. "But you didn't even know me." "Sometimes it's not about knowing someone," he said quietly. "Sometimes it's about seeing what's right and stepping in." For a long while, they sat in silence, watching the firelight dance across the walls of the cabin. Outside, the canyon stretched into darkness, stars beginning to prick the sky with silver, but the peace was fragile. Far off, Anna noticed a faint glow moving along the ridge, like the reflection of a lantern on the rocks. Her heart lurched. "What is that?" she whispered. The cowboy's eyes narrowed. "Trouble," he said simply. Anna felt her stomach twist. Trouble? People who don't like others getting a second chance. People who think the world owes them and will take it from anyone they can. Jonah stirred in his sleep, mumbling softly, and Anna felt an urgent protective surge. Are they going to find us?" "They'll try," the cowboy said, "but we're ready. You just have to trust me." That night, sleep did not come easily. Anna lay awake, listening to the faint rustling outside, every shadow making her heart pound. She kept glancing at the cowboy, who sat just inside the doorway, his rifle resting across his lap, eyes scanning the ridge. He was calm, unshakable, but Anna could feel the tension in the air like a living thing, coiling and twisting around them. At dawn, Jonah woke with start. "Mama, lights," he whispered. Anna looked toward the ridge and saw the flickering glow again, closer this time. Shadows moved among the rocks, indistinct but unmistakable. She felt her breath catch. "They're coming," she said softly. The cowboy stepped forward, his movement smooth, almost effortless. He mounted his horse, then reached for Anna. "Get ready," he said. Anna's mind raced. They had food, shelter, hope, but now all was threatened. She looked down at Jonah, who clung to her like a lifeline, and realized something terrifying. Their safety depended entirely on this stranger. The wind picked up, sweeping the canyon in a swirl of dust and dry leaves. The shadows on the ridge seemed to grow larger, darker, more menacing. The cowboy's horse stamped impatiently, muscles tense. Anna's chest tightened. "Who are they?" she asked. "People who don't play fair," he said, voice low. "People who will take what they want, no matter the cost." He turned his horse toward the ridge, pulling Anna and Jonah along. "But I'm not afraid of them, and neither should you be. You've survived worse than this." Anna's heart raced. She wanted to argue, to insist that they hide, that they wait, but something in his tone silenced her. She realized that hope and courage were not things you waited for. They were things you fought for. As they approached the base of the ridge, the shadows resolved into figures, rough men with harsh faces, rifles glinting in the sunlight, eyes cold and calculating. They had been watching, waiting, and now they were ready to strike. The cowboy reined in his horse, planting his feet firmly in the stirrups. "Stay behind me," he said. "No matter what happens, do not come out until I say so." Anna clutched Jonah tightly. The men on the ridge shouted, brandishing their weapons. Their voices carried a harsh, mocking tone. "Thought you could hide, huh? Little widow and your fancy cowboy friend." Anna's stomach lurched. The man had promised safety, but now it seemed fragile, maybe even impossible. She could see the calculation in the eyes of these men. They were experienced, ruthless, and they wanted something only the cowboy could protect. And then the cowboy raised his head, meeting their gaze with a calmness that was almost terrifying in its certainty. "You're gonna regret this," he said, voice like gravel and steel. "Step any closer, and you'll learn why nobody in Reedridge County crosses me." Anna's breath caught. Something deep in her chest shifted. Fear mingled with a flicker of awe. She realized that she had stepped into a story bigger than herself, and that survival would depend not on hiding, but on courage, on fighting. The first gunshot rang out, a sharp crack that split the canyon air, and Anna felt the world tilt. Dust and echoes swirled around them, the canyon turning into a battlefield. She squeezed Jonah tightly, knowing that this moment would change everything. The secrets behind the cowboy. The canyon echoed with the tension of unrelenting danger. Outside, the gang had stopped their direct assault, circling like vultures, waiting for a chance to exploit any weakness. Inside the cabin, Anna pressed Jonah to her chest, her mind racing. The cowboy moved silently along the walls, checking the windows, adjusting their improvised barricades. Every motion he made was deliberate, every glance sharp and calculating. "Who are they?" Anna asked quietly, her voice trembling. "Why do they hate you so much?" The cowboy paused, his back to her, jaw tight. "They're part of a gang I crossed years ago," he said slowly. "Bad men who don't forget debts. I used to run cattle across territories they claimed. I fought them, cheated them out of what they thought was theirs. They've held grudges ever since." Anna's eyes widened. You've done this before? Fought like this?" He nodded. "More times than I care to remember. I've survived because I knew when to fight and when to walk away. But some debts don't go unpaid. Not with people like them." Jonah peeked from behind Anna's arm. "Are they going to hurt us?" His small voice shook. Anna kissed his hair, fighting back tears. "Not if we're brave," she whispered. "We have someone protecting us." The cowboy's eyes softened for a moment, looking at the two of them, this small family he had chosen to defend. "You've already shown bravery," he said. "You survived hunger, fear, and loss. That courage, it's stronger than bullets." Anna felt a spark inside her, a tiny ember of strength that had been buried under months of despair. For the first time in a long while, she realized that she was not powerless. She had made impossible choices to keep Jonah alive. She had survived alone. And now, she could fight, not with guns, but with heart, courage, and determination. Hours passed, the canyon stretching into the deep orange of sunset. The gang's shouts grew louder, frustration creeping into their voices. They were impatient, dangerous, and relentless, but the cowboy remained calm. Every movement, every calculation was precise. Anna watched him, fascinated despite her fear. How can you stay so calm?" she asked. He turned to her, shadows playing across his face. "Experience," he said quietly. "I've been through worse, seen worse, lost worse. But I keep going because stopping, that's when people like me and people like you get swallowed by the world." Anna's chest tightened. She realized then that this man's courage wasn't just about skill with a gun. It was about survival, resilience, and choosing to protect others even when the world had been cruel. Jonah yawned, exhaustion finally catching up with him. Anna settled him into a corner of the cabin, wrapping him in a blanket. "Sleep, baby," she whispered. "We're safe. We're going to be okay." The cowboy moved to the doorway again, scanning the ridge. He noticed movement in the shadows, figures approaching stealthily. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he gestured subtly to Anna. "Listen, I need you to help me." Anna blinked. "Me?" "Yes," he said firmly. "I need distractions, diversions. I can't do this alone, and I need you to be brave." Her stomach twisted. She had never held a weapon in her life, never imagined herself in a fight like this. But when she looked at Jonah, sleeping peacefully, she knew she couldn't hesitate. She nodded. "Okay, what do I do?" The cowboy handed her a lantern. "Light it, throw it toward the far side of the canyon. Draw their eyes there, but be quick, and don't get caught." Anna's hands shook, but she gritted her teeth and nodded. She crept toward the edge of the cabin, peeking out. The first figure was moving closer, oblivious to her presence. She took a deep breath, then hurled the lantern toward the far rocks. The fire blazed, sudden and bright. The gang shouted in confusion, turning their attention toward the light. The cowboys seized a moment, firing precise shots that sent them scrambling back. Anna ran back to the cabin, adrenaline surging through her veins. "You did well," he said, his voice calm but edged with admiration. "That courage, it saved us." Anna's chest heaved. I didn't know I could do that." The cowboy's gaze softened. "You didn't know because no one has ever asked you to. You've been surviving alone, carrying a weight no one should have to bear. But strength, courage, it's in you, and it's what keeps people alive." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the canyon in purples and deep blues. The attackers were regrouping again, but the cowboy wasn't letting them settle. He moved with uncanny precision, forcing them into retreat, controlling the battlefield with skill honed by years of struggle. Anna finally understood this was more than a fight for survival. This was a test of will, a battle to prove that even in the darkest moments, resilience and courage could turn the tide. Hours passed like this, tension stretching every nerve to the breaking point. But slowly, methodically, the gang's advantage eroded. The cowboys' experience and strategic mind outmatched their brute force. One by one, they were forced to retreat, their shouts fading into the canyon's shadowed valleys. When the last echo of gunfire died, the cowboy lowered his rifle and exhaled deeply. Anna sank to her knees, Jonah in her arms, tears streaming freely. It's over," she whispered. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to hope. The fight had been brutal, exhausting, terrifying, but they had survived. And they had done so because courage, resilience, and the unexpected kindness of a stranger had given them a chance. The cowboy sat down near the fire, taking off his hat. He looked at Anna and Jonah. "You survived this because you didn't give up. You believed in something better, even when it seemed impossible. That's why you're still here." Anna's hands shook as she reached for his. I don't know how to thank you. You saved our lives." He smiled faintly, rough and weathered. "No thanks needed. You'll do the same for someone else someday. That's all I ask." For the first time, Anna saw him not just as protector, but as a teacher, a guide showing her that survival wasn't just about escaping danger. It was about finding courage in the smallest moments, hope in the darkest nights, and strength within yourself when the world seemed determined to crush you. Jonah yawned again, sleep tugging at him. Anna held him close, feeling the warmth and comfort that the cowboy's presence had brought. She knew they were still far from safety, that life could still be cruel, but she also knew this. They had been given a second chance, and she would not waste it. The canyon was quiet now, the shadows stretching long across the rugged terrain. Stars appeared in the sky, bright and indifferent to human struggles. But in that quiet, Anna felt a fire ignite inside her. She would fight. She would protect Jonah. And she would live, not just survive, but live with courage, hope, and the strength she had discovered in herself. The cowboy stood, dusting off his coat. "We rest tonight," he said. "Tomorrow we make sure nothing like this ever comes near you again." Anna nodded, finally understanding the depth of what he had done for them. And as she watched him prepare for the long night, she realized something profound. The world could be cruel, yes, but it could also be fiercely kind. Sometimes hope came in the shape of a stranger, in the form of someone willing to fight when you couldn't. She took Jonah's hand, squeezing it tightly. "We're going to be okay," she whispered, not just to him, but to herself. The night passed slowly, filled with vigilance and quiet gratitude. When dawn broke, the canyon was calm and the threat had vanished. Anna looked out over the landscape, the sun casting gold across the rocks, and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Certainty. They were alive. They were safe. And for the first time, she believed that their lives could be more than just surviving. They could be full, bright, and unstoppable. Triumph of hope. The morning sun rose over Reed Ridge Canyon, like a promise, painting the jagged rocks in gold and crimson. The air smelled of pine and dust, sharp and clean after the chaos of the night. Anna stood at the edge of the cabin, Jonah asleep in her arms, and watched the horizon with a cautious optimism she hadn't felt in months. The cowboy approached, his boots crunching on the dry earth. He looked tired, but there was a quiet strength in his eyes, a calm that seemed to fill the canyon itself. "We're not safe yet," he said. "They'll regroup. Men like that don't vanish. But today, we make sure they never come near you again." Anna nodded, her fingers tightening around Jonah's tiny ones. She had learned much over the past days. Courage wasn't about fearless action. It was about standing up despite fear, about protecting the ones you loved, even when the odds were stacked against you. And now, she would prove that she could fight in ways she had never imagined. The cowboy led them down a narrow path winding along the ridge, the canyon opening into a wide plain. In the distance, they could see the approaching dust clouds, the gang returning larger, angrier, and armed to the teeth. But this time, Anna was ready. This time, they had a plan. The cowboy crouched behind a rock, rifle ready. "Anna, listen closely," he whispered. "You'll stay behind me, but you need to signal when I get close enough. You know the lantern trick?" Anna nodded, though her hands shook. "Yes." "Good. When I give the word, you light it and throw it toward the left ridge. That will give me cover. And remember, Jonah stays behind you." Her heart pounded, but she steeled herself. She had been afraid. Yes, but she had also survived. She had been tested, and she would not fail now. As the gang drew closer, their leader barking orders and waving a rifle, the cowboy stepped from behind a rock, his movements deliberate and commanding. He fired warning shots that sent a ripple of fear through the attackers. The first line hesitated. The cowboy's reputation was known in these parts. He was not a man to underestimate. Anna's hands trembled as she prepared the lantern. Jonah clung to her side, eyes wide but trusting. "Mama, you can do it," he whispered. Her chest swelled with love and determination. "I can," she said, more to herself than to him. She raised the lantern high and hurled it toward the left ridge. The flame caught instantly, a sudden beacon that drew the gang's attention. The cowboy took advantage of the distraction, moving swiftly and with precision. One by one, the attackers were disarmed, driven back by his skill and strategy. Anna watched in awe, her heart racing, knowing that they were witnessing justice in action. Not blind luck, but resilience, courage, and careful planning. But the leader was relentless. He shouted and advanced, his face twisted in fury. "You'll pay for this, cowboy. You'll pay for protecting them." The cowboy didn't falter. "You've already paid for your choices," he said calmly, taking aim. A single shot rang out, disarming the leader and sending him sprawling to the ground. The rest of the gang scattered, realizing the fight was lost. Anna's legs shook as she dropped the lantern, relief washing over her. They were safe, truly safe. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to breathe, to let hope fill the empty spaces that fear had carved in her heart. Jonah hugged her tightly. "We're okay, Mama. Really okay." Tears streamed down Anna's face. "Yes, baby, we are." The cowboy approached, sheathing his rifle. He looked at them with a rare softness. "You did well," he said. "More than well. You stayed strong when it mattered. That courage, it saved you as much as anything I did." Anna shook her head, still overwhelmed. "I couldn't have not without you." He smiled faintly, rough and weathered. "And I couldn't have done it alone either. Strength comes in many forms, Anna. Yours is remarkable." For a long moment, they stood together, the canyon bathed in golden light, a symbol of survival and hope. Anna realized that life had tested her, stripped away her pride, and pushed her to the brink. But she had risen. She had chosen courage over despair, hope over surrender. The cowboy helped Anna gather what little belongings they had. He offered her a place to stay, not just temporarily, but as a chance to rebuild her life. "You and Jonah deserve stability, work, and peace." "You've earned it," he said. Anna's heart swelled. I don't know how to repay you." "You don't," he said simply. "Just live. Live fully, bravely, and help someone else when they're in need. That's repayment enough." As they rode together toward the safety of his homestead, Anna looked back at the canyon. The dust of battle had settled. The sun rose higher, illuminating the rugged beauty of the land, reminding her that the world was vast, full of challenges, but also full of opportunity and redemption. For the first time, Anna allowed herself to hope, not just for survival, but for a life filled with love, purpose, and courage. She looked down at Jonah, his eyes sparkling with curiosity and trust, and she knew that she had been given a gift greater than gold or bread, a chance to rewrite their story. The cowboy glanced at her, his eyes soft beneath the brim of his hat. "You're stronger than you know. Don't forget that. And whatever comes next, you face it together." Anna nodded, the weight of months of fear and struggle lifting. She realized that the hardships had not broken them. They had forged them into something stronger, resilient, and unyielding. She could face the future with courage because she had learned the truth. Even in the darkest moments, kindness, hope, and determination could light a way forward. Weeks passed. Anna and Jonah settled into the homestead. With the cowboy's guidance, Anna learned to manage the small farm, care for the animals, and even barter with the townsfolk for goods. Jonah thrived in a safe, nurturing environment. Slowly, the shadow of their past began to fade. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Jonah ran to Anna with a freshly picked bouquet of wildflowers. "Mama, look!" he exclaimed, eyes bright with pride. Anna laughed, tears in her eyes. "They're beautiful, Jonah, just like you." The cowboy watched from the porch, a quiet smile on his face. He had taught them more than survival. He had shown them the power of resilience, the importance of courage, and the beauty of hope. Anna approached him, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you for everything. I don't know what we would have done without you." He tipped his hat, the familiar quiet strength in his gaze. "You did this, Anna. You and Jonah. I only guided the way. Remember that courage lives inside you. It always has." That night, as the stars spread across the sky like a blanket of silver, Anna held Jonah close. She thought of the days when despair had seemed endless, when hunger and fear had dominated their lives. And she realized something profound. Survival was just the beginning. Life, with all its trials, could be beautiful. Hope could flourish. Courage could shine, even in the darkest canyon. Anna whispered into Jonah's ear, "We survived, and now we will thrive." The cowboy watched them from the porch, the firelight flickering across his face. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to relax. He had seen injustice, cruelty, and suffering, but he had also witnessed resilience, bravery, and the triumph of the human spirit, and that, he knew, was worth every battle. As the night deepened, the canyon silent and calm, a sense of peace settled over them. The struggle had been fierce, the danger real, but hope had prevailed. Anna and Jonah had learned that even when life strips you bare, even when the world seems merciless, the courage to fight, the strength to endure, and the kindness of others could change everything. They were no longer victims of circumstance. They were survivors, fighters, and most importantly, they were free to live, to hope, and to dream again. And somewhere in the vast, wild expanse of the Reed Ridge Canyon, a cowboy watched over them, knowing that the most powerful victories were not those won with guns, but those won with courage, love, and unyielding hope.